Hello everybody, my name is Cameron Erlen. Welcome back to, once again, another YouTube video. Today I'm doing a updated ranking of the villainous characters. This video might have to be split into two parts. This video might be really long. But currently, since my last ranking, there have been two Disney villainous sets. I think one or two Star Wars sets. So it's been a minute. It's been a couple years since my last ranking, and my opinions have definitely been updated. I even got my little list here of the rankings I made because there's so many at this point. I even got them for Marvel and Star Wars too over here. Even though we might not see a Marvel set for a while, being that there hasn't been a Marvel set in the last like 2 years, and this looks like it's going to be another one without a Marvel set. So Marvel's a little bit in the dust right now, but they did say that all types of villainesses are going strong and get in development currently. So let's hope that Marvel comes back eventually, even if it's just a single character pack or a 2 character pack. Who knows? Maybe they'll go back to the 3 character packs, because I don't think that the whole 2 character pack was very well received. But yeah, we're just gonna get started here. I definitely have some different opinions on the newer characters. I don't think Villainous has been as strong as it used to be in the last couple of years. But with the exception of one character specifically who is really good. But I think Disney Villainous specifically fell off after Despicable Plots a little bit, because Despicable Plots is kind of booty. Bigger and Badder is really bad. The Yogi Boogie set, we'll talk about that one because it's just one character. No spoilers. And then the King Candy set is pretty mid. The 2 characters there are pretty mid. But yeah, we're just going to get started. And with my last place pick, it's always going to be the same. It's going to be Lotso. What's his name? Huggenbear? Lotso. Will always be my pick for last place, probably. Ravensburger would have to royally screw up with their next character, or any characters they make from here on out, to make me dislike any character more than Lotso. Not a dislike for the character in the movie. I actually think he's a pretty solid villain in the movie, even if I'm not the biggest Toy Story fan myself. But the way they did him in the game is just terrible. So he starts off with Buzz Lightyear on his heroic side at the Caterpillar Room. And what you got to do is, you got to get all 4 of the heroes. You only have 4 heroes in your deck. You have Woody and Jesse the pig and Rex. Rex is also really annoying. You only have those 4 heroes, and you need all 4 of them, each with 0 strength, at the Caterpillar Room with Buzz Lightyear. It doesn't matter if Buzz Lightyear is under your control or if he's on his heroic side, if he's in Spanish mode or not. But you have to have Buzz there and all of the heroes at 0 strength there, which is a lot easier said than done, because when it comes to villains' fate decks, some of them are really weak, some of them are pretty decent, and like Lotso, Maleficent, and Gaston can just completely reset them and make them have to start the game all over again. And that's literally what Lotso's fate deck does. Lotso's fate deck is probably the most brutal fate deck in the game. It's very rare that Lotso wins a game, because his fate deck is just a bunch of, put the heroes back at full strength, or any hero at 0 strength, remove them, reshuffle them into the deck, and stuff like that. I can't even remember names because I play Lotso so little at this point, because that's how much I dislike this character. Pretty much since Bigger and Badder came out, Lotso has been pretty down there. Probably my least favorite character to play, because he's just not well designed. I think if they put some different fate decks or different cards in his fate deck, instead of just the same like 3 different effect cards that completely reset him and make him unwinnable, then I feel like they would do better. And even getting more heroes, like, they couldn't have gotten any more heroes than just those specific 4. And Rex's ability, specifically Rex, it's so difficult to deal with Rex, especially since there's definitely fate cards where you can move him around, and since you can't do anything to Rex. He has the weakest strength of all of the heroes, in the deck, but he also is the hardest to take out because you can't do anything against him or to him if he's in the location with another hero. And a big focus of your opponents is going to be mostly getting Rex out and putting him strictly to locations with heroes and keeping him there at all cost. So yeah, Lotso definitely the worst. Kind of in the same boat as Lotso, unfortunately, is my next pick, which is Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Gaston, they did not do well at all. Now, when it comes, if I was ranking these guys by thematicness or how thematic they were to their movie, Lotso would be high enough, but Gaston would be at the very bottom because Gaston's whole thing is he has pure, unadulterated, untamed masculinity. He is the Johnny Bravo of Disney, and he will stop at nothing to get the girl. However, his goal completely ignores the fact that the only thing he really wants is Belle, and actually makes it so you don't even want Belle on your board because you can't win if Belle is on your board, which completely contradicts what Gaston's after because, he wants Belle, but you can't win if he's on the board. Instead of giving him a unique goal where he would have to either find a way to win over Belle or by killing the beast or something, which was the ideal goal, they instead give you 8 obstacle tokens that you place 2 at each location, and you have to remove all 8 of them. By playing the same effect cards the whole game, going back and forth between locations. Huge power struggle with Gaston, by the way. He does not have a good way of gaining money unless you play Swoon, which can give you 3 power, but at the same time you also have to replace an obstacle, which a lot of people, especially beginners, ignore Swoon because they don't like the idea of replacing an obstacle because your fate cards are just going to do it for you anyway. But Swoon is actually a really good card, so you could play some more expensive cards that'll get obstacles out faster. But Gaston's in the same boat as Lotso, where his whole fate deck just completely resets him. You can't win the game if Belle is on your board, but that doesn't even really do much because Belle is super weak at only 2 strength, which is very weak. I'm pretty sure all of Gaston's allies can take out Belle, in which Gaston has some wolves. He has the Mob and LeFou and Monsieur Dark. I think Monsieur Dark is the only hero that can't take out Belle. I can't remember if he has 1 or 2 strength. I do like the fact that they added that, like, if you defeat Maurice or the Beast, you remove either both obstacles from the castle or Maurice's house, which I think that's a nice touch, but that's pretty much the only compliment I can give Gaston. Not a good design character at all. They definitely could have done a lot better with such an anticipated villain with how late he did come into the game. 5 sets into the game. Especially even being the front and center of the box. He's on the box. He's the main villain of the Despicable Plots box, and he kind of just failed. So in this ranking, I am also ranking the introduction to evil villains, and I have as my worst introduction to evil villain, I have the introduction to evil version of Maleficent. So how they changed the rules for Maleficent is instead of the normal game, instead of the original Maleficent, where Maleficent just has to place down 4 curses, have 1 at each location to win, she has to now place down allies and play curses to locations strictly with allies, which I like that touch. But at the same time, the OG Maleficent is not even that fun. And this Maleficent and the OG Maleficent is just kind of like a slog to get through, and her fate deck also falls into that category of being really brutal and completely resetting her. Maleficent's introduction to evil version is kind of in the same boat. And I don't know, I just think the whole having to play allies, with Maleficent, she's not really a villain that's great for this game, where she doesn't have a goal. In Sleeping Beauty, she's pretty much just like the OG Karen, where she didn't get invited to a party, throws a tantrum, and that's her character. But I can forgive the old Maleficent because she was the first villain they designed for this game. She's the poster child of Villainous. She's on the front of the very first box ever released way back in 2018. I'm pretty sure this game was first released. And when they remade her in Introduction to Evil, they didn't do anything to make her better. I think with adding the whole she has to play allies thing, just made her worse. I'm also pretty sure that they nerfed the Raven. I forget which was her only decent card. With the Raven, it was actually really good. But yeah, Maleficent. Introduction to Evil, not that great. Next we have actually another Introduction to Evil, who the Introduction to Evil character I'm about to talk about next feels more unnecessary than the Introduction to Evil set itself, which, yeah, I don't think Introduction to Evil was a very necessary set. I don't think the Villainous set they're releasing this year is necessary either. The third one that they're releasing, which is like a very kiddie version of it where it's not even really villainous. It's just you play as the villains and they call it Villainous, but it's like a different kind of game. Probably not buying that one, but I might just because it might be a... I mean, I probably will, but I probably won't touch it. But I'm talking about Captain Hook, the most unnecessary character to ever come into Villainous is the remade Captain Hook. I think they completely ruined Captain Hook with how they upgraded him or kind of like smoothed him out with this Introduction to Evil. Captain Hook from the original green set was the first Villainous villain I ever played, and till this day I still have a lot of fun with Captain Hook. When I seen what they did with him when I got Introduction to Evil, how they remade Captain Hook, I don't like it at all. Instead of playing the Neverland map to unlock the Hangman's Tree, which is now renamed to Lost Boys Hideout, by the way, I don't know why. But I guess it is the Lost Boys Hideout. It was never, I don't think it was ever called Hangman's Tree in the film. But instead of him playing the Neverland map to unlock it and going through his fate deck to find Peter Pan, now he has to play the Neverland map, which I'm pretty sure the Hangman's Tree is never locked. It's never locked. You actually play the Neverland map to find Peter Pan straight up instead, so you don't really have to play any of those cards. And actually, I'm going to pause the video real quick. I'll be right back. Oh, no, never mind. Nope, not pausing it. Instead of playing the Neverland map to unlock the Hangman's Tree and then fight Peter Pan yourself, you can play the Neverland map to find Peter Pan straight up, but then not only do you have to move Peter Pan over, but you have to get rid of the map before you can get rid of Peter Pan. But to do that, you have to defeat a hero other than Peter Pan. It's honestly, Captain Hook, I think, was greatly designed. I just think they wanted a big box, and they didn't want to fit 3 characters into a big box, so you need to do something with a 4th character to at least make it a big box. And Captain Hook was their choice. The Introduction to Evil box completely zoned out Jafar and Queen of Hearts, and Captain Hook's, what they did to him was super unnecessary. And honestly, him and Maleficent are kind of tied. I dislike them both equally. Captain Hook's more fun. The Introduction to Evil version of Captain Hook is more fun than Maleficent, but the Maleficent version is a lot more necessary, I feel, than Captain Hook. This Captain Hook was super unnecessary, not needed, and I'm done talking about him now. So now we're getting... this poor character keeps getting bullied this video. It's Maleficent. Going from Introduction to Evil, 2 spots later, not that much higher, still really low on the list, is the OG Maleficent, where you just play 4 curses from your hand and win, but it is a lot more in-depth than that than you may think, but still not that in-depth. Basically, you play a curse, somebody plays a fate card on you that's really nasty, which is pretty much your whole fate deck. You have to discard the curse now. At this point, you've been fated so much because you've been so close to winning, you've reset multiple times, now you have to go back through your deck, find all those curses again. Same old, same old. Meanwhile, Prince John is over here at like 25 power, because of some bogus card combo he pulled, and he wins the game. So, yeah, pretty much it. They couldn't, with Maleficent's screen time and what she did in the movie, they didn't really have much to do with Maleficent, except just curse a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, Maleficent's not a villain I feel like really works with this type of game. But maybe in a different world, Maleficent would have been better, and they might have found something different to do with her. But I honestly feel like the whole curses thing they have with Maleficent and her goal is pretty much the only thing they could have done with Maleficent. Especially this early in the game, being the first villain and all. Okay, the next villain has actually moved up on my list a little bit, but I still dislike her the same amount. I don't like her at all. Which is Yzma, which is the same because Yzma's a really fun villain in the movie, but the way they designed her in the game, I actually think the way they designed her in this game is really smart and unique, and also the sun is gone. There's no longer light in my video. The reason I think they designed her really well in this game, it's just not for me. So Yzma's whole thing is she has to find and defeat Cusco using Kronk, and you're supposed to attach the dagger to Kronk, and that's really thematic and all. Because that's how the movie was going to end. So thematicness, she gets a 10 out of 10. They did her splendidly when it comes to what she had to do in the movie. Splitting her fate deck up into 4 decks spread out across her locations, so she has to find Cusco and whichever one he'd been randomly placed in and defeat him. But she's just not for me. There's some stuff that could get in her way, specifically the 2 kids. You have to defeat them before defeating other heroes, which is kind of morbid. It's like, oh, this little kid's in my way, let me punt them real quick or something. And then there's also On the Run, which can reset your game entirely, and there's a lot of, cards that put heroes back into the Fate decks. They're always going to know, and they're going to put those heroes out, so you got to defeat them again. And you can still use Kronk, utilize Kronk, move around and stuff. I think the way they did Yzma was really smart. But personally, her playstyle is just not for me. I don't know. Every time I play Yzma, I'm kind of just like, yeah, this kind of sucks. So unfortunate to see such a fun villain this far down, but unfortunately that is where she is going to stay for the time being. Okay, the next character I have here is going back to the OGs, which is Prince John from Robin Hood. The first villain where I have their introduction to evil version above the OG version. But we'll get to that pretty soon. So Prince John, super basic goal, don't have to go into detail at all. Prince John was the OG easy character to win with, the OG beginner character that baby Villainous players would play, and until they become more experienced, and then they never touch this character or let them see the light of day again, and that is Prince John, whose goal is simply to collect 20 power and win. You go back and forth between the jail and the church. If the church is blocked, you go to one of the other locations that give you money, and then keep going back to the jail over and over again and gaining more and more money until you get up to 20, and that's literally Prince John's gameplay. A lot of Prince John players don't even play anything. Even though, personally, when I play Prince John, which is very rare, or when I'm playing by myself and I'm doing, like, tournaments and stuff, and I have to play Prince John, I will play some. So I'll play some Wolf Archers out just to do something other than go back and forth, grab some money, and then, let somebody else take their turn. Extremely boring playstyle, but Prince John is the most recommended beginner character. But if you play Prince John and only Prince John, you're not really going to learn how to play other characters that well if you're a Prince John main, should I say. As sticking with the green box, we got Ursula. Or I guess start with Ursula. Ursula was like my OG least favorite character to play. I just didn't really understand her, but at the same time I also didn't really like her. I still don't really like playing her. I think what they did with her was really cool, how they had the whole change form thing with the lock token, but if I have to, she's the only villain who has a lock token that she doesn't have to remove to win, and she can't remove it. It just goes back and forth based on whether she turns into a human or back into her octopus form. But I'm in a Villainous group on Facebook too, and I've seen multiple posts about this. And this occurs most of the time when I play Ursula too. I win the game without even acknowledging the lock token. A lot of time, Ursula, you don't even have to change form. You just win. Of course, at the end of the game, you could play change form to, lock the trident and the crown and the lair, and, they can't do anything there. They can't play heroes there or anything. You could kind of soft lock yourself into a win. The strategy with Ursula, at least my main strategy, is to, place King Triton, his trident, to Eric's ship, move him over to Ursula's lair after you attach the Ursula's lair binding contracts. Ursula doesn't have a vanquish action. Instead, you attach a binding contract to a hero for a specific location. When you move the hero to the binding contract's stated location, they die. And that's how you take out heroes. She doesn't have a vanquish action. She was the OG villain without a vanquish action, which I think is a really unique way. But much like Yzma, her playstyle just isn't for me. And obviously the crown, which you kind of just play to the lair for free. Good design character, not for me. Okay, still sticking with the green set. The green set's getting pretty bullied. And it is the Queen of Hearts. The character who I think has moved up the most, because I actually used to hate playing this character. She's kind of grown on me a teensy tiny bit, but not a lot at all, because she's still really low on the list. So the Queen of Hearts is the only villainous character who doesn't even have a villainous goal. Sure, she can decapitate a few people along the way, but her main goal, the main thing she wants to do the most in life is just play a simple game of croquet. Make sure you have your card guards turned into wickets at each location, and then take your shot and make sure they're strong enough to, hold the pose so the croquet ball goes under them, or, the scene in the movie, the croquet scene in the movie. That's pretty much what it is. Queen of Hearts is simple. Her fate deck is not that brutal, even though it can definitely hurt her sometimes. If I just want to sit down and enjoy a game of Villainous, Queen of Hearts probably won't be my choice at all, but occasionally, very rarely, do I just sit down and choose to play Queen of Hearts. But when I do, I can have a fun enough time with her to be like, I won. That was pretty cool. And then I just will leave her in the box for the next 50 games. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Queen of Hearts. Okay. Next, we have another Introduction to Evil villain, and that is the person on the front of the Introduction to Evil box, and that is Introduction to Evil's version of Ursula. Now, this change I feel like made Ursula a lot better. Instead of you having to attach binding contracts to heroes and move them to a specific location to make defeating heroes an absolute chore, instead the binding contracts that you can play add a vanquish action to their location. And Flotsam and Jetsam you can use to vanquish. I don't think they're discarded when you use them in a vanquish action. But even the better thing is that you still... I think the only thing I don't like the fact that they took away is the change form move and the lock token. None of the Introduction to Evil characters that have a lock token, which is literally 2 of them, they don't have them. They got rid of the lock tokens in Introduction to Evil. I do miss that thematicness part, but with the Introduction to Evil version, they did remove the lock token. Instead, change form, I think you just look at the top 3 cards of your Fate deck and discard one, put one on the bottom, and put one on the top. I'm pretty sure that's what change form does. Maybe there's some thematicness there, but if there's not, if there is, I'm missing something. But what I do like that they did is instead of just being able to play the crown and the trident right to the lair, the crown you have to play at the palace, I'm pretty sure, and the trident you have to play at the shore. So you have to play them on the opposite end of your board from the lair. And I think that's what I like about this version of Ursula more. I think they did her really good here. Introduction to Evil, but at the end of the day, she's still Ursula, still plays kind of a little teeny bit like Ursula, and still isn't all that fun. And finishing off the Introduction to Evil set, I have the final Introduction to Evil villain, which is Prince John, which I think is leagues better than the green box version, the OG Prince John, for one reason, and that's because he has to do something. He actually has to play cards to do something to win. So, in Prince John, to win with Introduction to Evil, he still has to gain 20 power to win, which, you're still going back and forth between those locations, but now he actually has to have Robin Hood in the jail. Which I'm pretty sure Robin Hood's ability has something to do with, when he's revealed, you must immediately play him or something. And then I'm pretty sure Little John gets rid of his, Little John takes 4 power from Prince John. When Little John's defeated, Prince John gains that 4 power. I'm pretty sure Robin Hood's old ability from the Worst Takes It All goes to Little John, and Little John now has Robin Hood's original ability from the OG set. But yeah, So not only does Prince John now have to gain 20 power, but he also has to have Robin Hood in the jail, which I think, adds some engagement to Prince John. Makes you actually have to play something. Makes you have to do something other than go back and forth between the same two locations, gaining money, and that being your only turn. But at the end of the day, still really easy to win with. I do like the fact that they added the fact that he has to, defeat a hero and have him at the jail to win. But at the same time, that literally takes playing like 2 cards and winning. I'm pretty sure Robin Hood's ability is also when he's defeated, he moves to the jail automatically, which I think they didn't really have to do that. But, they were trying to make it as simple as possible for the goal. All right. Finally, moving on to the last villain we talked about that wasn't from Introduction to Evil or Wicked to the Core, the 2 core sets, or not Wicked to the Core, the last villain that we talked about that wasn't from 2 of the core sets was Yzma, which was a long time ago. So we're finally moving on to Bigger and Badder, which my second least favorite villain, Bigger and Badder, is Madam Mim. Oh, I wanted her to be good. I wanted her to be so good. I was like, oh my god, it's going to be a wizard's duel, certain transformations defeat certain transformations. She's going to be so fun. But when it comes to it, I think they needed to give her a full Fate deck. One with more useful cards for sure. Even though she only has 8 cards in her Fate deck, I feel like she's definitely needed at least 2 less Knowledge and Wisdom cards than she has. Because literally 4 of them, a lot of time, often your opponents are going to have a Fate and it's going to be like, Knowledge and Wisdom and Knowledge and Wisdom. Wonder what I get to do here. Instead of just move a transformation somewhere where you can place, where you'll just kill them anyway. Doesn't do much to Madam Mim. Now, she does have some pretty bad Fate cards, like Merlin will place a transformation back in the deck, or Germ Merlin will get rid of one of Madam Mim's transformations. Bird Arthur makes you discard your hand, and Archimedes swaps out Merlin transformations. I do like the fact that you have to defeat certain transformations with certain transformations. That adds a nice bit of thematicness to playing Madam Mim, but at the same time, just Battle to the Wits being the only way she can really get through her deck, and Battle of the Wits also making you discard half of your hand, meaning you're going to have to make sacrifices, and obviously the Madam Mim power struggle. And still, after all these problems and all the stuff I mentioned, she still remains one of the strongest villains in the game, one of the easiest villains to win with, one of the villains with the highest win rates. Because honestly, she's really easy. If you get good luck, if you draw all the transformations you need at the right time or close enough to the right time, you're going to win. She is pretty easy to win with, even though for some reason I can never seem to win with her, but I see a lot of other people constantly winning with Madam Mim. So many people talk about how brain dead easy Madam Mim is to win with. So hey, maybe it's just a skill issue on my part. Maybe I don't play her enough to fully understand what I'm supposed to do. What the best strategy is with her. Which is something I can't say about all the other villainous characters because I think I'm a villainous expert personally. Alright, and finishing off the Bigger and Badder set, we have Syndrome. Syndrome used to be a character that I used to really like. You get the upgrade, you get the upgrades, you upgrade your Omnidroids and keep destroying them, and then you get the 10th one, find the remote. But over time, when the friends I would play Villainous with would, play Syndrome more and understand Syndrome more, people usually just ruthlessly Fate Syndrome. Absolutely ruthlessly. And put all the heroes on his board, and there's not really much Syndrome can do because Syndrome's going to be playing this back and forth game. Heroes are going to be throwing the remotes between them, and you got to get the remote from them with the Omnidroid, and you still got to make sure there's no heroes on your board, Maybe you can't find your third major modification card to summon the final Omnidroid. You have 2 of them out on the board. Somebody plays that was totally wicked. Gets rid of all your items and allies. Oh, now you got to cycle back through your whole deck again to get major modifications back, which pretty much just means Syndrome's not going to win the game at that point. I think that was totally wicked card. Is just a super heavy blow to Syndrome's ability to be good. I used to like him, but over time, playing Syndrome more and more, he has some glaring flaws that really show the more and more you play Syndrome, you will start to notice, oh no, this guy ain't that great. All right. So I'm going to put him back up there, and we're going to move on. He had a bigger and badder set. Not that great. All right. Reaching the halfway point now, we are finally talking about our newest villain, which is Shere Khan. Oh boy, this is another syndrome moment where you play him enough and you think he's really fun and really easy to win with, then you realize his super glaring flaws. Which, Shere Khan has that Marvel Villainous syndrome, where Marvel Villainous, being able to play a fake card to anybody you want, you can completely lock a villain into never winning a game ever. And that's literally exactly what you can do with Shere Khan. Uh-oh, you have all your heroes, you have all your locations covered by fire tokens and heroes. Now you can only do like 1 or 2 actions per turn, and there's nothing you can do. That's the problem with Shere Khan. Shere Khan's the only villain where, like, I've recovered with Syndrome after, losing all of my major modifications and having to cycle through my deck again. I have never recovered with Shere Khan, having all 4 of his fire tokens on the board, all heroes out, getting ruthlessly faded. Mowgli's there just looking at me like an a-hole. Can't do anything about him. He has to stay on my board until I get rid of all my fire tokens. I get rid of 1, bloop. Oh, they bait me 1 more time. It's placed again next turn. Or they move Mowgli, and Mowgli places 1 and stuff. So, Shere Khan is the newest villain who has the potential to win in 2 turns. I think he might even... definitely 2 turns. 2 or 3. He can win really fast, but it's very rare. But yeah, I think Shere Khan... he could just get locked into playing a game forever. It's an endless cycle of despair and torment. I think one of the least fun villainous games I ever played was with Shere Khan, where my buddy faded me like 5 times, and that was enough to just completely stop me from winning the game, having any chance. I couldn't get enough cards. I didn't have enough actions to gain enough power and play cards in the same turn to get, and enough stuff out to get rid of all the fire tokens. I get rid of them, a couple more face, they'd be played again, and it's just an endless cycle of despair. And talking about, I think we're gonna save that for the next video. Actually, I think this will be part 1. We're halfway through the list. I've talked about, there's 28 villains. 14. Yes, we have talked about 14 villains in this video, and we will do the top 14 in the next video. So thank you everybody so much for watching, and the next ranking is coming to you soon. Bye-bye.